All right, well, thank you all for coming today. Everybody hear me? We're good? All right, cool. All right, so thank you all for coming today. I'm really excited to be here. My name's Chris Jones, and I'm here to talk to you about what a 9-year-old can teach you about Tableau. I do have one caveat here, one fix. It's actually what a 10-year-old can teach you. My daughter was very specific, wanted me to fix that. She's now 10, she's not 9 anymore. That's a big deal, okay? Her other request was she wants to see all of you. So we're gonna do a selfie real quick. Everybody say hi to Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
All right, cool. All right, so let's get going here. All right, again, my name's Chris Jones. I work at, that one not working? Oh no, we got a dud. We got a dud set. Thank you, there you go. All right, my name's Chris Jones. I work at ExxonMobil. This is my 5th conference. My first conference was in 2014. My Tableau journey was quite interesting. I was making a shift in my career from a managerial career path to a technical career path. And I was at a loss as to where I wanted to go. And I'm sitting in my office one day, and a friend walks in. He's here, he's back there now. And he says, hey, I felt compelled to come in here and talk to you. I don't know why. He goes, but there's this tool that you need to try out. He goes, it's Tableau. That's awesome. He's like, there's a conference next week, you should go. Okay, cool. I get my license on a Friday. I leave on Sunday. I go to Tableau conference. I take training on Monday. I go to 3 days worth of conference. I take training on Friday. Back then they did it on Friday too. Took a red eye home. Got home, slept for a couple hours, said hi to the family. Got on my laptop and just started like messing with data and building my own viz. And I created my blog, vizrator.com. Created my Tableau Public profile. A month later, I had a Tableau Viz of the Day. So it just really made sense to me, okay? This just really clicked. This is my family over here. This is Maggie and my son Cameron. We'll get to them. And some other pictures of them. But you didn't come here to hear my story. You came here to hear Maggie's story. And unfortunately, she's not here, okay? I've been asked that at least 50 times. But Maggie absolutely, she loves playing piano. She loves reading, she loves crafting, she loves coding, robotics, but she loves Disney movies. And so one day when Maggie was in 3rd grade, she came home and I'm sitting there and she's doing some homework at the kitchen table, and I look down and I say, Maggie, you're working with charts and graphs. Like, that's what Dad does every day. I was like, that's really cool stuff. She's like, yeah, we're learning about line charts and bar charts and dot plots. It's like, that's really cool. I was like, you want to see some of the stuff I've done? Yeah. So she thinks I'm going to pull out a piece of paper because that's what they were doing. I was like, no, look, let me show you some stuff that, that I've done. Oh, I can't venture too far from that. And so we sat down, we started looking at some of the vizzes I did on Tableau Public. Some of the stuff that, she didn't care about what I did for work. Started showing her some of the other things on Tableau Public. And she gets really interested and she goes, can I do this? Yeah, we can do this. So she ends up creating her dashboard, and we'll get into it in a little bit later on, but this was her final dashboard where she looked at her favorite Disney movies. We'll talk about the process of how she went about doing that. But she put that out there and she thought, this is really cool. And she said, can you come talk at my school for career day? Yeah, sure. So I came and talked to the entire 4th grade. And for career day at her school, they actually dress up for what they want to be. So she said, well, I'm going to be a data geek like Dad. So we found some old sunglasses, popped the lenses out, threw on some, my wife made her a t-shirt, gave her some Tableau swag, threw my buttons on, you know, a little lanyard. She even has a little tiny ExxonMobil badge, which is completely fake, okay? We didn't actually make a real badge, it's just a printed copy. My boss is over here listening. So she went and then she told everybody all day, she kept having to correct them, I'm not a teacher, I'm a data geek, because apparently she looked like a teacher. So after this went out, we grabbed this photo, we threw it up on Twitter, and it starts to take off. And Tableau reaches out and they say, hey, we want to do a blog post about Maggie. Awesome. So they said, we're doing a series called Data Kids. We'd love to interview her. So they actually set up a 30-minute call with Maggie. She interviews on the phone. They ask her a bunch of questions. They write the blog post. And it really took off. About a month later, then they reached out and said, hey, we want to tell Maggie's story. So at an internal Tableau sales kickoff, actually 2 times now, Adam Selipsky has told Maggie's story as part of Keynote. Maggie is Tableau famous. I have people that walk up to me at conference and say, hey, are you Maggie's dad? Yes, hi, my name's Chris. Right? It's every time I go meet with somebody from Tableau, they're asking, hey, what's Maggie up to? How's Maggie doing? They absolutely love Maggie. She's also very proud of the fact that she was the first girl data kid. That's very important to her. So, I want to talk about the first concept here. I've got 7 different concepts here, 7 principles that we'll go through. Things that I learned along the way that I think would help you on your Tableau journey, regardless of what stage you're at. But so one of the things that I learned when working with Maggie is I had to keep it simple, okay? I wanted her to have, I feel it's very important to have a strong foundation understanding of concepts about data, okay? I wanted her to know what the difference between a dimension and a measure is. That's important when working with Tableau. I want her to know what qualitative or quantitative data is, what discrete, what continuous is. Those are hard concepts for some adults to understand, right? How do you teach a 4th grader? Well, I've actually taught over 200 4th graders this concept, and they all seem to get it. What I came up with was I used an example. Kids like dogs, right? My daughter loves dogs. So meet Data the dog. This is Data the dog. Some things about Data the dog is we can talk about when I ask the kids, it's like, what's a qualitative thing about Data the dog? I don't know. Qualitative is something that we use to describe the dog, right? And they're like, oh, I can do that. She's brown and white. She has a pink collar. She has lots of energy. She's fun to play with. These are all data points about the dog, right? Okay, what's a quantitative thing that we can tell them? It's like quantitative, that's a numerical thing that we use to measure. We're counting or we're measuring. And discrete, the way I remember it and the way I tell people, flip the button on the one, you're blue. Flip it till you go to red. Okay, perfect, awesome. So discrete are things that we count on the dog. Continuous are things that we measure. And when I ask 4th graders that, they go, every single one of them shoots their hand up. Well, I can count something about the dog. I can measure something. Awesome. That's the difference between qualitative and quantitative. I'll be honest, I've used this example with adults, okay, in a business setting. After I did this once before, I was telling a Tableau Zen master, and he was like, this is amazing. He's like, I'm shamelessly stealing this concept. Awesome. And he wasn't using it to teach kids. Number 2, you've got to make it relatable, okay? It's got to be something that she cares about. If I went and looked at weather data, average rainfall data, we're from Houston, so average, the Harvey rain, she doesn't care, okay? She wants something that's important to her. So we started with, I showed her some of my dashboards. And the one that I just finished at the time was a dashboard on Deadpool. It's awesome, I'm wearing my Deadpool socks today. And she looked at this and she went, no, that doesn't work, Dad. I'm sorry. I was like, why not? She's like, that's a movie I can't see. I need something that makes more sense to me. It's like, great, what are we gonna do? She goes, Disney movies. Awesome, which Disney movie? I don't know. That's really hard for a 4th grader to pick which is her favorite Disney movie. So I said, well, you know what? How about your top 10 favorite Disney movies? So she gets and she starts writing on cards. Every animated, she wanted to be very particular. This is animated Disney movies, okay? Otherwise Mary Poppins would be on this list. And so she wrote down her top 10 and we started to sort them. And this is how we ended up. Lion King to Finding Dory and Zootopia to Brave. And these were what were important to her. And I said, well, that's easy, Maggie. We can make a list. A list is data, right? So what other data can we add to it? So she starts thinking of some other things where she said, well, what's my favorite character in that movie? Awesome, let's create a column. What's my favorite song? Cool. Did I see it in the movie theater? Do I own it on DVD, Blu-ray? Cool, more columns. And so we know we can take some data like what I had with Deadpool, and I can go grab some data from IMDb or Box Office Mojo, and we can start to bring that in, and we built a data set. It's a very simple data set. It's 2 tabs in an Excel spreadsheet. This is the 10 rows that she filled out, okay? The other one is I actually grabbed the data and brought it in, so I have weekly totals, so we can look at the weekly. But we didn't need to blend it. There's no filtering on her dashboard. It's very simple, so she can work from this. She understands this. She can describe this. So it's the same thing for you. If you're starting, if you're trying to learn, if you want to get passionate about this, the best way to learn Tableau is to actually just do it. Find something that works for you. Your very first project should not be to go jump into a 5 million row data set with 150 columns and try to go solve a problem, okay? Find something that works for you. For me, it was sports data, movie data. I talked to a customer recently. He's cataloging all the books that he's read over the last 4 years through Goodreads. Find something that works for you and just start there. You will learn more doing that than you will with Superstore, I promise. So, whoops. Well, this thing is sensitive. Let's go back here. Okay. The next concept, explore with a childlike curiosity, okay? So if you think back to when you first started learning Tableau, and for some of you, maybe that was yesterday in training, and that's okay. We all started somewhere. Maybe you went to classroom training. Maybe you watched the wonderful videos on Tableau's website. Maybe you worked with a power user, whatever. That wasn't going to work for Maggie. I'm not sending my 9-year-old daughter to a 3-day Tableau class, okay? So how can I teach her? So I came up with a concept that I like to call intuitive exploration, right? Tableau it's a pretty easy tool to use, right? One of the mantras is we make the tool simple enough so that the people that understand the data can ask the questions. So I could kind of prompt her along with some questions, and I let her drive the mouse. That's very, very important. Whenever I'm working with a business customer, I don't want to sit down with them, or I don't want to go off and build the dashboard for them, and then come back and say, here you go, I built the dashboard. If they have a Tableau license, I want to teach them. It's the Chinese proverb, right? Give a man a fish and he feeds for a day, teach a man to fish and he feeds for a lifetime, right? I would rather take twice as much time sitting down with somebody and walking them through how to do it. They're going to understand it, and they know the data, and then they can make those modifications in the future and don't have to come back to me. So we started with a question. And the first question that I asked Maggie was, what was the IMDb rating of each movie? Okay, so we could look at those movies, and I asked Maggie, I said, what data do we have that can answer this question? Well, we have IMDb data, and we have movie. Perfect. All right, so we're going to walk this through pretty simple. First thing I said is, why don't you start by double-clicking IMDb data? So she double-clicks it. She's like, oh, that was cool. So what did we get here? We got a bar chart that summarized all the ratings for all 10 movies. That doesn't really get us a whole lot. I said, what was the other piece of data that we need? So, well, we need movie. Great. So I looked at her and said, how do you think we get that? I've already shown her how to double-click the rating. So she thinks, well, what if I double-click the movie? Yeah, that works. We can get some bar charts that come up and then they show those ratings of movies. This works pretty well. But a 9-year-old looks at this and says, yeah, that's a lot of blue bars. Yeah, I love bar charts. Bar charts are my favorite chart type. Okay, not for her. So I said, well, what would you do if we wanted to change the color? How would we change the color of these bars? So she looks around a little bit and she goes, well, there's this color button here. Right, so what would we want to do to make each movie a different color? Well, what if I drag movie to color? Yeah, that works, right? And so she's doing this, and with every time she's doing this, it's, oh my gosh, that's cool. Wow, oh, this is so awesome, right? Super excited, the most excited customer I've ever worked with. But then I ask her a question on this. I go, Maggie, what's the 3rd highest rated movie? I don't know. She's like, maybe Beauty and the Beast, maybe Zootopia, I can't really tell. Well, what if we sorted them from highest to lowest? And that's the only question I asked her. I said, how do you think we would do that? Well, Tableau has a button up there. There's 5 ways to do almost anything in Tableau, right? But she found the simplest one. She found a little button at the top that sorted everything from largest to smallest. And she goes, well, what if I click this? I go, I don't know, Maggie, what if you click that? Why don't you find out? So she clicks it, and sure enough, it works, right? So then we start moving on to the next question. How would we change the chart type? This one's a little more difficult for her. I did not want her to use show me, okay? Let's try to figure this out. And so I prompted her a little bit. I said, where do you see a bar chart on here? And she found a bar chart. And so she changed it. She goes, well, what if I change it to? And remember, we talked about she was familiar with what she called a dot plot. And she goes, well, what if I do circles? Awesome. I was like, now, what if we want to add the label? She goes, well, there's a label button right there. And she does that. Okay, so these are pretty easy, right? Hopefully you guys all would know how to do most of that. But let me put this in a concept that might apply to you. Do you ever just explore functionality in Tableau? Do you work outside your comfort zone? Do you always do the same thing with the same charts and build the same dashboards? Do you ever work with functionality like sets, user filters, parameters, geocoding, clustering, trend lines, reference lines? These are all things that are maybe a little bit beyond Tableau 101. I recommend exploring these things, right? Spend some time, carve some time out of your day, out of your week to say, you know what, I'm going to go tackle this. I want to learn how I can leverage parameters better. There's wonderful resources on the internet for you to go do that. Do you know how to create all these on your own? How many of you still use Show Me on a regular basis? It's okay, you can raise, that's fine. I do too sometimes, because it's quick, right? But you need to understand how to build everything on Show Me, okay? Pick one and say, I'm gonna learn how to build a tree map from scratch. Because once you do that, you understand how Tableau works and how it functions. And if you understand how it functions, you can now take your skills to the next level, and you can start doing things a little bit more creatively. And then last, do you ever go reverse engineer anything from Tableau Public? Tableau Public is a wonderful resource. Subscribe to the Viz of the Day, and when you see one in your inbox and you go, wow, that one's really cool. How in the world did they do that? Guess what? Tableau Public, you get to download it, you get the workbook, you have the data set, you can reverse engineer and explore and see how they're doing it. And then I have one last question for you, and this is a shameless plug to just put more pictures of Maggie in here, because that's why you came, is are you this excited when you're using Tableau? Okay? And I ask you, why not? Okay? Maybe you don't have a big grin on your face while you're working at your desk on Tableau, but we all have challenges that we try to overcome, and when you overcome one of those, pat yourself on the back, you know, celebrate it. Brag about yourself, you know, to go to a coworker and say, hey, look at this challenge I just fixed. Put something out on Twitter. The community will support you. It's a wonderful community of people, but really just work with enthusiasm. Okay, number 4, do your visualizations answer your questions? So remember we asked a question earlier about IMDb rating for movies. I start everything with a question, okay? And I suggest you write it down. Get a Post-it note, dry erase board, put something on your laptop, go ask your question. What's the question you want to ask of your data? Write it down, go explore in your data, but periodically come back and say, am I on the right path? Is this the right question? Is this the right answer? Is the answer taking me in the right direction? Do I need to rework and refine my question? Or did I go down some rabbit hole? Which is okay, sometimes rabbit holes are good, they lead to other insights. But always come back to your question. So for Maggie, she asked the question, how much money did each movie make every week? Great, then we start with, what data do we have that can answer that question? Well, we have the money, we have the movie, and we have the week. Awesome. So we go in and we build a viz. And this is what we came up with. And I knew what she was going to say when she saw this. She looks at it and she says, Dad, that's not right. What do you mean it's not right, Maggie? Why not? It answered your question. It's how much money each movie made every week. She goes, no, they make more money every week. Those lines should be going up. You know how cool it is to watch your 9-year-old rock a table calc? Okay, I was like, this is a running sum, Maggie, let me show you this. And so this didn't work, and so she ended up building a viz that actually answered her question. And this is one of her favorite charts because her favorite movie is Lion King. And what you'll find is that that's number 1, but it also has the highest gross, and it has the highest IMDb rating. So she's pretty excited about that. So number 5 is to be creative. And for number 5, I'm going to shift gears here a little bit, and I'm going to introduce you to Cameron. Okay? Cameron is my 14-year-old. And Cameron, he loves to play golf, he loves football, he loves video games, but he really loves music. Okay? He plays percussion in the school band. He wants to be a drummer. And he loves a lot of different bands. And it's actually quite amazing to have a 14-year-old. You know, you see him with his headphones on. He's got his Beats headphones on all the time, listening to Spotify. And if I ask him at any point in time, what are you listening to? I'm shocked. I'm listening to Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, Blink-182, Weezer, Yellow Card. It's like, kid, you got good taste in music, man. Now, that's partially my influence. I take him to concerts. But cemented firmly at the top, it will not move. Nothing is overtaking Imagine Dragons. He absolutely loves Imagine Dragons. We've seen them in concert 3 times. And he's listened to Imagine Dragons almost any given time. And so one day, Cameron and I are riding in the car and we're listening to music. Can you guess who we were listening to? Imagine Dragons. And the song Thunder came on. And I don't know if you are familiar with Thunder. Most people have heard it. It was the #1 song. And I looked at him and I go, I like the song, Cameron, but how many times do they say the word thunder? And he's 14, so his response was, I don't know. I could count. No, Cameron, that's not good enough. I said, because what if I ask, how many times do they say another word? Do they use thunder in another song? What song has the most number of words? What song has the most repetitive word? What song has the least amount of words? What word do they use the most? He's like, I don't know, Dad, stop asking all these questions. I don't have the answers. I said, well, Cameron, we can go get the answers. So what we did was I had Cameron sit down with an Excel workbook and Google Lyrics, and I had him copy all of their songs. It's over 30 songs, where each row in Excel had a different song with the lyrics. I then ran that through Alteryx and built a data set to where every lyric had a row. Okay, so now I can look at, for one song that has 300 lyrics, it now has 300 rows of data. Okay, so now it's something that we can work with. We can start to count individual words. So one of the first questions, again, we start with a question. One of the first questions that Cameron had of his data was, which songs, how many words are used in every song, and what is the repetition of the words? So we came up with what I thought was a pretty cool viz. Now I will say that Cameron was not as excited about using the mouse and doing the driving. He's very creative, he's very artistic. He had a lot of thoughts on the design of the dashboard, the color schemes that he wanted to use, the chart types, the layout, but he didn't really want to go actually learn to build them. And I thought, you know, that's okay. I'm not going to force you to do this. I said, but man, one day you're going to be a great candidate for management because you have a lot of opinions. And so we looked at this and he's like, yeah, that's kind of cool. He's like, but I think it can be better. I'm like, wow, okay, I thought this was pretty good, right? Like, how, Cameron? He goes, well, these kind of look like sound recordings, but there's no bottom half. He's like, so can we make it into like a sound recording? And I thought, well, we can try. So he shows me something. I'm like, okay, Cameron, we're not animating the sound in Tableau. But he's like, no, he's like something where it's like a bar above and a bar below. And so we experimented with some Gantt bars and with inversing the bar, but that didn't really work with the tooltips. And we came up with a really creative solution where we used the plus sign. We used the symbol, the plus symbol, and we varied the size of the plus sign based on the repetition of the word. So we see down here, thunder's the one listed on the bottom, 78 times, by the way. That's how many times they say the word thunder. That's down here. And so we see that repetition. They don't say it at the beginning of the song, but then it starts to come. And this really looks like a sound recording. And I thought, wow, Cameron, that's real. I never would have thought of that. And I wouldn't use this in a business setting, but it was something where we could really push the limits. And I'm really proud to say that the dashboard that Cameron and I worked on was a Tableau Viz of the Day. And so he's pretty proud of that. There's a little bit of sibling rivalry. I don't know if any of you have multiple kids. That's a thing. Cameron's pretty proud of the fact that he has a Viz of the Day and he has more hits. But Maggie is quick to point out that, well, I have a blog post, more Twitter likes, and the Tableau CEO's told my story. Okay. So, but this was a lot of fun. Actually, last night at the welcome reception, I wore a shirt that had this as, that was the shirt. So it was, it's a pretty cool viz. And apparently, Dan Reynolds likes to sing about himself a lot. He uses the word I a lot. Number six is make it look good. So this one came straight from Maggie. It's what I kind of joked, I was like, make it look pretty. That's what she said, right? And I changed it to make it look good. So for Maggie, it was very important to have a dashboard that had her personality, right? She wants something that she could be proud of to go show her friends at school. So this was the dashboard with the Tableau defaults. And the Tableau defaults have improved dramatically over the last few years. I don't know if any of you were using it when it was Tableau 8. You know, they were a little dated, but now they're great. But this didn't work for Maggie. And defaults are okay, but when you leverage defaults, you're basically telling the customer that the tool knows more about this data than I do. And that's never the case. You know more about the data. You know what to highlight. You can leverage pre-attentive attributes like shape and size and color and position to really make it stand out and draw their attention and make them want to explore this dashboard. So for Maggie, the first thing that she looked at this and she said, well, we have a Disney dashboard, but it doesn't have any Disney font, right? We need some Disney font. How can we like dress it up a little bit? And she's like, let's make it all Disney font. And I went, well, that would be really difficult to read. And it would work in desktop, but Tableau Public, unfortunately, does not have Disney font as one of the standard fonts. So I said, well, we can take an image, and we can throw an image in for the title. I was like, how's that work? She's like, yeah, that's awesome. It's like, well, what should we tackle next? And she's like, we got to do something about these colors. It's like, what's wrong with the colors? She's like, I don't want brown and gray in my dashboard. Okay. I said, let me introduce you to a color palette called Jewel Bright. And for those of you that don't know, Jewel Bright was developed by Jewel Lurie from Tableau. And Jewel Bright is a lovely rainbow shade of colors that only has 9 colors. Well, that's not going to work. But there was one very important color that it was missing, and that was pink. So we added pink, and so she looked at this of the colors, and she went, yeah, that works, right? It's rainbow scheme. I can deal with this. I was like, well, what else do we need to do? Well, our family absolutely loves going to Disney parks. We go to Disney World and Disneyland almost every other year. We go to one or the other. And we love to eat Mickey-shaped food, and we love to hunt for hidden Mickeys and go get pictures with Mickey and wear Mickey ears, right? So she said, Dad, how can we have a dashboard that doesn't have Mickey? I don't know. You want a big picture of him down here? She goes, no, can we put Mickey ears on those circles? I went, yeah, we can do that. That's custom shapes. It's like, that's pretty easy. We can throw all those in a folder, come into Tableau, and we can switch those circles to Mickey ears. And I said, you know what, while we're at it, let's dress up that boring bar chart that you don't like so much, and let's do a lollipop chart. And now let's put Mickey ears on the ends of the lollipops, so it's like our Mickey-shaped food. And she went, yeah, that works. And so this was the final dashboard that she came up with, and she's very proud of it. I'm proud of it. I don't know that it's really a way that I would even go about improving this. And this dashboard has been seen by a lot of people. Even for those that may know Alberto Cairo at the University of Miami, he's written multiple books. One of them is the Truthful Art, and I had the opportunity to meet Alberto Cairo, and I happened to show him this when he was doing a talk at ExxonMobil. And right before his talk, about 10 minutes before his talk, he's like, I got to go prepare for a little bit. He goes, let's catch up after the talk. Then in the middle of the talk, he actually pulls this slide up, and he put it in his presentation. And so it's really cool to have people that actually focus on this and specialize this and teach this as a living to look at this and say, Maggie did a really good job. So one other thing that I want to kind of stress a little bit is to update your tooltips. So remember we had all that extra data that Maggie captured about what was her favorite character, what was her favorite song, whether she's seen it in the movie, and she wanted to put all of those in a visualization. And I said, Maggie, that might be a little much. I said, but we can do a tooltip. It's like, let me show you how to do that. When I see a tooltip that has number of records 1, a little part of me dies inside, okay? When I see a tooltip that's in the default format, it makes me cry. So a personalized tooltip is way better. A tooltip is another way to engage your customers to that next level and really provide them some other information. Now, when we built this dashboard, it did not have viz-in tooltips. I'm sure we could have done something with that, but this works way better. Make it where it's being read. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, it was my second conference. I was in Jewel Lurie that I mentioned earlier that has the Jewel Bright color palette. She was doing a session called Pimp My Viz. And she said a line in that session that I just absolutely loved. And my wife ended up making a t-shirt for Jewel, but it's update your tooltips or little fairies will come punch you in the face, okay? And that's probably the best advice I'm gonna give you today, okay? But definitely update those tooltips. When I see those tooltips that are the defaults, to me it just says, I didn't really have the time to go in and update this other extra key component. Number 7 is have fun and never stop learning. So for this one, I was originally going to talk about what Maggie's been up to since she did her viz. She hasn't done a lot with Tableau, to be honest, but she's done some other really amazing things with technology. And so for this one, I thought, I'm not the right person to tell you this. I'm gonna let Maggie tell you. Okay. 1 second here. We got sound? Okay.
Hey everyone, Maggie here. I really wish I could come to this conference, but I have school, which is very important in my education if I want to become a data geek. Well, it's been really fun. I joined my school's robotics team the first year they had it, and we went to competitions and we built robots with the WeDo 2.0. During the summer, I joined coding camp, where we learned how to make Scratch and program robots. And sometimes I would go to some STEM conferences. I've been to 2 recently, and I went to University of Texas and Texas A&M, where I learned math, science, and engineering. And for Christmas, my family gave me a Kano coding computer and a Jimu robot. Well, I've already been working on one because we got this new puppy named Arnie. He's a blue-nosed pit bull lab German Shepherd mix, and we're tracking his height, weight, and how much he eats every week, and I really hope to put that in a dashboard. Well, it's really fun to have people walk up to my dad and say, "Hey, are you Maggie's dad?" And I get all this Tableau swag, and it's really, really fun. A little, but I'm hoping to get one of my own. I learned that it's not that hard. My dad showed me vizzes on Pokemon and Legend of Zelda, and they looked really, really hard. But whenever I tried, my dad showed me all the different things, and it really wasn't that hard. It was really easy. I just say, have fun and never stop learning. Oh wait, one more thing. I want to wish a very happy birthday to my dad. Love you, Dad.
All right, let's see here. Switch back. One sec. All right, so how do you go about getting kids interested in data? There are, again, Tableau Public, there's a wealth of resources out there. You can go search for, there's Maggie's Viz, there's Cameron's Viz, there's other great visualizations on the Marvel comic characters. I did this with 4th graders, and they were almost fighting over who got to do, say which one. There's stuff on video games, music, movies, books, whatever your kid that you're trying to teach is interested in, there's something on Tableau Public that you can go show them to at least start the conversation, all right? There's a lot of great resources, but that's all I had today. I want to say thank you. I will stick around for some questions. As Maggie mentioned, today is my birthday. And so if you're looking for any last minute gifts, feedback is nice. I wear a size 5 stars, but I'll be happy to stick around and answer any questions that you guys have. Thank you all for coming.